Welcome to Lesson 31, using rates, ratios, and proportions for Mrs. Boyle's math class. We're going to start off with a couple of vocabulary words. The first one at the top of your paper is ratio, and a ratio is a comparison. So go ahead and write in a comparison. And more specifically, it's a comparison of two quantities. Using division. So an example of that might be 2 boys to, say, 3 girls. And we have several ways we could write this. We could write it 2 to 3 as a fraction, or 2 to 3 using a colon, or using the word in the middle, 2 to 3. Okay, a rate is a kind of ratio, a specific kind of ratio, that compares quantities measured in different units. Oop, I wrote the wrong word. Let's see, the eraser here. Quantities measured, not compared, in different units. So please write in the definition there. So an example of that might be feet per second, apples per dollars, or hits per month if you're talking about a different sport. The next word on your list is a unit rate, and unit rate, we've talked about unit ratio before, which is also on your paper. That was from lesson 8. Unit ratio is a conversion factor that compares two measures that name the same amount. So it would be a ratio of fractions equal to 1. So 1 foot over 12 inches. A unit rate is a rate whose denominator is 1. So an example of that might be a cost, which is called a unit price, or cost per unit. So it might be $2.50 per box, or it could be 55 miles per hour. That's a denominator of 1 hour. Okay, moving on to the next couple of words. We're actually going to move to a new page because I'm out of room here. Proportion and cross products. Proportion is an equation that shows two ratios are equal. So it's an equation that shows two ratios are equal. So an example of that might be 3 to 5 equals 9 to 15. So if you had 3 girls to 5 boys, if you had 9 girls, there would be 15 boys. We also call those equivalent fractions. Okay, the one last thing we're going to talk about here is the cross products property, which you've heard of before. It's just a reminder. You can just write the property in using letters. A over B equals C over D. And if we were to use cross products, we'd multiply A times D, and that would be equal to C times B. And that is what we call cross products. This only works when two fractions are equal. Only works when they're equal. Okay, moving on to some examples here. First, we're going to talk about unit rates and comparing them to decide which is a better deal. So the first one, example here, is 10 bananas for $1.35 or 8 bananas for $1.20. So if we're going to be comparing how much it is per banana, we want price per banana. So our first scenario is $1.35 for 10 bananas. Our second one is $1.20 for 8 bananas. $1.35 divided by 10 equals 0.135, which if we were going to write that as a price, we would have to round to $0.14 or 14 cents. And $1.20 divided by 8 is equal to 0.15, which is 15 cents. And this is per banana. So 14 cents per banana or 15 cents per banana. Obviously, the better deal would be 14 cents per banana. Okay, our second example is a car travels at 60 miles per hour. How many miles per minute is this? So we're not talking about a unit rate this time. We're actually going to use a unit ratio to convert. So right now we have 60 miles per 1 hour. This is an example of a unit rate because it has a denominator of 1. But we're going to multiply by a unit ratio to convert to miles per minute. So miles we're going to keep, but we need to change the hours to minutes. So if you remember from before, if we want to cancel hours, we want hours on the top of our unit ratio and minutes on the bottom because that's what we're converting to. So we would fill in 1 hour has 60 minutes. And the hours would cancel. So we would have 60 miles on the top. 60 times 1 is 60. And 1 times 60 on the bottom, which is 60 minutes, which is equal to 1 mile per 1 minute. So 1 mile per minute. So we have another unit rate here. And in here we used a unit ratio. Those are important vocabulary words to remember. Okay, moving on. Example number 3. A hose sprays water at a rate of 10 gallons per minute. How many quarts per second is this? A couple things I want you to notice here. We're starting with gallons. And we're converting to quarts. We're also starting with per minute, and we need to convert to per second. So we're actually converting two different units here. So we're starting with 10 gallons per 1 minute. And again, that is a unit rate. And we're going to multiply. We'll get rid of, we'll get rid of minutes first. So we'll put minutes on the top, and we're converting to seconds, so seconds on the bottom. And we'll fill in For every minute, there are 60 seconds. So that's going to cancel. Minutes are going to cancel there. And then we also need to multiply by another unit ratio to get rid of gallons. So we want gallons on the bottom and quarts on the top because that's what we're converting to. And there are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. So you'd fill that in. And the gallon will cancel with the gallon on top. And we'll be left with quarts and seconds. So in our answer, we'll have quarts on the top and seconds on the bottom. And we just need to figure out what our numbers are here. We have 10 times 1 times 4, which would be 40. And on the bottom, we have 1 times 60 times 1, which would be 60. So 40 over 60 would equal 4/6, which equals 2/3, 2 quarts per 3 seconds. And that's our final answer. Okay, the next couple of examples here are just solving cross products. And before we move on to that, I'm just going to pause and start a new video for part 2. So please continue with the second video, part 2.